hot toys that aged terribly. You know what? Better yet, one could argue hot toys that aged like milk. Guys, we are here to talk about some Hot Toys figures today that did not stand the test of time. But today I want to go over some figures that you should probably avoid. But before we get started, make sure to like the video down below, subscribe to the channel, and click the notification bell so you're notified when content goes live here. Let's discuss some spoiled milk. Thank you guys so much for joining me for another video today, and I don't want to waste any time. Truly, I want to get into this list here, and at number 15, we have the Hot Toys Captain America from Avengers Infinity War, and I know someone in the chat is going to say, Will, he's already dead. You've ragged on this figure quite a bit in several videos now, but I do feel this bears repeating, because there are a lot of good Captain America figures out there, and while I'm saying that this figure is not the worst of them, I don't think it's anywhere near the best at the same time. I actually am a fan of this look. I loved Avengers Infinity War, and I really think it's the best Marvel film ever made. And I liked Captain America being a sort of weathered, sort of, I guess, grungier look, grimier, like the suit is damaged, and, you know, he's been on the run for quite a while. He does not have his iconic Captain America shield, which is really not the huge deal to me, although it's, you know, problematic if you only want one Captain America, obviously. It's this that's the problem. It's the head sculpt to Chris Evans that looks absolutely nothing like Chris Evans. I think the paint applications are what let this figure down truly. The mustache I've actually grown to soften on a little bit. I feel like Hot Toys always struggles with mustaches. This is going to be something that goes on in perpetuity, apparently, because they really do struggle with these mustache sculptings. But I will say the rest of the figure, I think the tailoring looks great. I like that you have the shields. The shields are prone to breaking because they have these little, very intricate, delicate straps. And if you move them too quickly or bend them too harshly, you will snap them off. But at the end of the day, this figure truly comes down to the likeness, right? Most Hot Toys come down to the head sculpt. You're paying primarily for realism, and while tailoring and costume design are important, as is presence, the head sculpt is primarily the selling point for most collectors. And for this one, I just feel like it lets down collectors. It doesn't look like Chris Evans. I see who it's maybe supposed to be, but when I look at it, I say, there are other Captain America figures that are far superior, that have more iconic costumes with the shield and better head sculpts. So while this one was really riding the hype of Infinity War at the time, which is, again, the best Marvel movie ever made, in today's market, in 2025, it just pales in comparison to the other options. At number 14, we have the Hot Toys Deadpool from the first Deadpool film. Now, it's been quite a while since this figure was announced and subsequently released, and since then we've had several Deadpool releases. We had the Deadpool 2 figure, we had Dusty Deadpool, now we have the Deadpool 3 figure, and of course a battle damaged Deadpool as well from Deadpool 3, Deadpool and Wolverine. And while this figure was great for its time, it absolutely pales in comparison to the newer offerings. The proportions, the overall suit design, I think is superior in the later films. It's a more vibrant red in the later films. This one's a little bit more of a muted red, which some people do prefer, but I like the new look personally. The display base, kind of cool. I do like that Deadpool vibe, but this one is pretty bare bones. The katanas actually did have a die-cast component, I believe. I don't know if it was the second one or the first one, which the newer version does not. You have the interchangeable eyes here, but really what it comes down to truly is the proportion and quality of material use. I want to showcase something real quick, actually from Justin's Collections Deadpool review, the comparison here. You can see the new Deadpool 3 figure in comparison to the Deadpool 1 figure, and you can just sense the enhanced realism on the left versus the right. Left is Deadpool 3, and the right obviously is the Deadpool 1 version. So guys, I mean, it's night and day. You can see the proportions, the overall material usage, the color scheme. It's just better in every way. The one on the left looks far more lifelike. And to be honest, while Deadpool 1 was a great film, Deadpool and Wolverine I feel like is the high point for the franchise so far. So I just feel like, hey, this figure has aged somewhat poorly. It's not a bad figure for its time, but when you look at the new revised offerings, the improved ones in every fashion really, no one would really go for this one over the other new ones. And at number 13, here's where we ruffle some feathers. The DX15 Jack Sparrow from Dead Men Tell No Tales. Hear me out on this one. Hot Toys has released an artisan version of the Jack Sparrow character from Dead Men Tell No Tales, which I don't think is the best Pirates film, but it certainly was a good one. Pirates 4 is the worst for sure. I did not like that film at all. Pirates 3, pretty solid. Pirates 2 is actually pretty elite, and I don't know that people always recognize that. Pirates first one was fantastic, but either way, I'm happy to have a Jack Sparrow figure in my collection. And I had this DX15, and it was a great figure for its time. But times change, and unfortunately, for collectors who maybe are holding on to this DX15, it just very much pales in comparison to newer offerings. Could you pick up this one for a much reduced price compared to the newer one? Maybe. I mean, I feel like even then you might pay $200 to $250. You could get the deluxe non-artisan version of this Jack Sparrow for probably like $335 to $350. And I do think the upgrades are very substantial and absolutely worth it. And you can see at the time here, this figure looks pretty solid. It looks like a very good figure. It was one of the best Hot Toys ever made for its time. But when you consider the newer offerings, which I'll show you right now, it just doesn't quite reach that same threshold in terms of quality. So looking at my review here, I did a review of the Artisan Jack Sparrow versus the DX15, and you can see here paint applications, tailoring, hair, everything involved is improved on the original. So to me, look, I'm happy for people who want to hold on to their DX15, but at the end of the day, the reality is the new version is a massive improvement. And while that figure was great for its time, it hasn't aged so well just because they did 2.0 it. And the Artisan version is just, it's very elite, it's very premium. I'm here to rag on another figure that I've ragged on before. I know it seems like I hate the Infinity War line. I really don't. I do think there are some great figures there, including the Infinity War Thor, which I still have in my collection. But this is the Infinity War Black Widow. For one, she had the blonde hair, which wasn't a long-term look. It wasn't a definitive iconic look for the character. And most importantly, it had the Barbie doll hair. The likeness actually isn't that bad. I do see Scarlett Johansson in the likeness, but the hair I think is the problem. In these final product blogger photos, this actually looks a lot better than what I saw in collectors' hands. Collectors had to do a lot of styling to make this thing work. That photo is very sus, by the way. I don't think I remember that one. But yeah, this is a, you know, it's a cool figure. It's a cool look for the character. But again, it is kind of a one-off similar to Captain America. This was before Hot Toys was doing their new method of the wool implantation where they glue on the hair. This might actually be more of a natural rooting, which sometimes people say they want, but not with this Barbie doll type hair that looks very synthetic and unrealistic and unnatural. Let's say that. This figure is just, look, again, there are other Black Widows out there. While I feel like none of them, excluding hopefully the Artisan, has really nailed Scarlett Johansson's head sculpt and likeness, and hair for that matter. This one is probably the worst of them. I've seen some Hot Toys Black Widows that are better than others, and certainly this one is probably near the bottom of the list for me. And I do want to share just briefly what, again, if you can get your hands on it, I know it's limited, but what the options look like these days when it comes to an Artisan Black Widow. And you can see here, this one looks vastly superior to me. Of course, it has the iconic red hair color, which is, of course, you know, iconic to the Black Widow character in the MCU. And you have a magnetic base. You have a really cool design here with the Iron Man 2 Black Widow outfit. So to me, it just look, I mean, if you're a Black Widow stan and you really need this character in your collection, I would have a hard time believing that you would stick with your Infinity War version and not upgrade to say this or maybe another Black Widow in the future. But that one did not age well, and I think the prices reflect a matter of, and I guess a reality of overproduction and a reality of maybe a quality that's not quite up to par. So while it pains me to do this, at number 11, I have to put the GOAT MCU character in here, and that is the Loki from Thor Ragnarok. While this outfit is actually pretty cool, I think I've actually warmed up on this one a lot. This is one of Loki's cooler looks. I do kind of wish they went with that blue and yellow one that they originally showcased, and they decided to go with something a little more classic and traditional for Loki, green and black. But I do think the blue one would have been pretty cool. Nonetheless, this is a cool figure, particularly with the helmet on. I think it covers up any of the deficiencies with the likeness. But when I look at this, I don't exactly see Tom Hiddleston. I do recognize that Hot Toys has improved greatly when it comes to nailing Tom Hiddleston's likeness. The new Loki from the TVA version and the President Loki are vastly superior to this likeness. I think this is a great figure, but I almost feel like you'd need a custom head sculpt for this one. I don't feel like it really does justice to Tom Hiddleston at all. And now we got a God Loki, which is artisan version and sculpted, which really represents the culmination of Loki's journey. And I can bet that eventually they're going to do an artisan Loki from Avengers, whether it's King Loki in the outfit or maybe the Avengers Loki in the more wartime outfit, not exactly the King outfit, which you know what I'm talking about, like the statue I have from Queen Studios. But look, is a good figure for its time. Again, I think that's the common theme here that you can find with the figures on this list. But in today's market in 2025, there are just better Lokis. For one, it's not the iconic definitive look, although I do like it, as I mentioned. You have the Avengers Endgame figure, which is super cheap. You can get that incredibly cheap. And that one's going to give you the iconic definitive Loki look. Not a great head sculpt either, but pretty solid. And with the helmet on, it looks very good. And they got God Loki now. At number 10, it pains me to do this as well because I love the character of John Wick and the franchise in general. This is the John Wick Chapter 2 figure. I'm not going to put Chapter 4 in here. I do have that one coming to me. I'm going to be doing some sort of video, whether it be a review or something else with it. But the Chapter 2 figure, while I owned it for a little while, I replaced the head sculpt pretty quickly. Hot Toys loves Keanu Reeves, but at the same time, they seem to struggle with Keanu Reeves. I'm not sure what exactly is the deal with that in terms of creating a likeness. So the artistry on display in this figure, the head sculpt is just not there. Again, this is a figure in a suit, so the head sculpt needs to be on point because it's not that exciting beyond the head sculpt and who the character actually is meant to represent. The figure is meant to represent, and that's John Wick, which is Keanu Reeves, an iconic actor and iconic franchise at this point. And this head sculpt is just not it, right? I mean, you can look at it and see, again, you recognize who it's supposed to be, but it's not there to the level that it needs to be for a figure that would cost $250 or maybe more at the time. And the John Wick Chapter 4 figure, while still not perfect from what I've seen, is a significant improvement compared to this one. And I mean, I do like the look for this all black suit for John Wick, and I love Chapter 2, actually. It was one of the best John Wick films, in my opinion. But this head sculpt is just not there. It never was. And I think I don't know, accepted it for the time. I was one of them, but I even had the Max Nut, the custom head sculpt that went on this figure, because it was just better than the Hot Toys version, which is pretty sad. You have to replace a Hot Toys figure that you already paid $250 to $300 for with a custom head sculpt. Not exactly ideal. While it came with great accessories, a cool base here, very simple base, but cool, a lot of weapons. The head sculpt is just not good. It never was. And in 2025, it's going to stand out among other offerings that are much more realistic these days. Another one that pains me to add to this list is the Black Panther from the Captain America Civil War film. Now, this one has been coined the original suit. That's the name that's been given to it since they've updated it with the suit that they saw actually in the Black Panther original film, but not the one later. You get what I mean, the Civil War suit that was in the Black Panther film. The original version was a great figure for its time, but now when you look at the suit compared to the updated version, the 2.0, the proportions, the texture, everything on the suit is more detailed and just more accurate and vibrant, which is awesome. I was actually not a huge fan of the Black Panther suit that they went with in the film, the later version, the upgraded version, if you will. I wasn't a huge fan of that. I like the Civil War look. I think this suit is perfect. I think it's perfect Black Panther. I think it just looks so badass and also mysterious, even though we knew a little about the character, and it looks high tech at the same time. I love this. I love everything about it. So the other suit that he used, it's pretty cool, but to me, it does not hold a candle to this one. I'm going to showcase just a brief comparison here that you can see on screen from Justin's collection. Again, I love that he always showcases the comparisons in his videos. You can see the 2.0 version on the left and then the original version on the right. And to me, the original version doesn't even look close to anywhere as good as the 2.0. The proportions, again, texture on the suit, everything is better the second go around. And when you have that version readily available for a retail price, probably around $250 to $275 these days, in such an iconic character, you need the best version that you can reasonably afford. And while Civil War is a cheaper version, it's just not anywhere close to as good in terms of the detail and accuracy. So gotta be the 2.0. Next up on the list is the Hot Toys Spider-Man Advanced Suit 1.0 from the original Spider-Man video game on PlayStation. I love this game. Spider-Man 2, I wasn't quite as crazy about, but I kind of feel like I want to give it another go and play it again and see if I feel any differently about it than I did the first go round, which I thought it was pretty mid. It was all right, but the first game is exceptional. And this suit is really badass. I used this suit pretty much the entire game, except for, of course, near the end when you're changing suits, which I won't spoil, for a legitimate reason to defeat a certain foe. This figure was great for its time. I had this figure for quite a while, and I think overall it has a really nice color scheme to it. The costume design is very unique compared to other Spider-Man costumes. I think this one is just super cool. It's classic. It has the red and blue vibrancy and the color scheme there, and it just looks kind of like a comic Spider-Man come to life, at least for me. even though it doesn't have a legitimate comparison in the comics. I get that. It doesn't have a one-to-one. It's a brand new suit from my understanding, but it does look like it's something that would be in the comics, if that makes sense to you. But I do think this one is pretty cool. But again, when you compare it to the Advanced Suit 2.0, which was an exclusive figure, but it was very reasonably obtainable for quite a while, I think it just, again, pales in comparison. 2.0s are intended to be better. They are remakes. They are 2.0 improved versions of the characters that we know and love. And you can see here on the left, you have the 1.0, the 2.0 on the left and the 1.0 on the right. You have the Advanced Suit 2.0 from Spider-Man 2. You can see the color scheme is just a little bit different. The blue here, you don't have the red lines on the outside of the legs. You don't have this V area right here in the middle. And the red actually goes up in this middle section. And you can see the Spider logo stays within the bounds of the red on the chest there, compared to here where it spills out onto the blue. I like the proportions. I like the suit texture. I like the head sculpt better. It looks a little more lifelike compared to this one, which looks a little bit more oval and alien-like, I guess you could call it. And I liked overall the design of the second suit a little bit better. I like the first game better, but I like the design of the upgraded 2.0 version a little bit better. So while 1.0 was a great figure for its time, 2.0, that's the bee's knees. All right, so we got to talk about this Hot Toys Jason Momoa Aquaman figure, and this is the Aquaman suit that he gets, I guess, near the tail end of the Solo film, which actually made $1 billion, that film. That's probably the most surprising $1 billion film in the history of Hollywood, just because a lot of people thought it would be pretty solid and make $400, $500, $600 million, but not $1 billion. It was a very different time. This was pre-COVID. People were still going to the theaters. People were loving superhero content at the time. And now, of course, it's, I guess, downgraded in every way since then. But I guess only time will tell if that will improve or not. Still, we have a Jason Momoa head sculpt from this Aquaman solo film, which, again, I very much enjoyed, that just doesn't look like Jason Momoa. Of course, you also have the DC going in an entirely different direction right now. We have James Gunn coming in, doing what he believes is best for the universe. And this Aquaman figure is just not... It's not relevant in today's market, right? And at the same time, the head sculpt was never that great. You're probably not going to be able to articulate him probably at all. The suit does have some presence to it. It's pretty cool. It's pretty dynamic and colorful, but excitement is only going to take you so far if you have a head sculpt that's just lacking. And of course, a character that is no longer relevant. You are going to see Jason Momoa as Lobo, but maybe we'll see a different iteration of Aquaman in the future for the DC universe ongoing. Only time will tell, but still, you have a head sculpt just not quite there, and the character just doesn't really matter anymore to most people. So if you have it and you love it, great, but it's just easy to forget about this. Next up, we have the Hot Toys Ahsoka from The Mandalorian Season 2. Now, this was a very exciting figure for the time because she had a great introduction for one, but this is a very popular, iconic character that was put into live action, and Rosario Dawson did an amazing job as the character. And people were really excited to get a live action Ahsoka in their collection. There were some collectors, I wouldn't say it was everyone, but there were a decent amount of collectors who had issues QC wise with this figure, with the arms breaking off just by posing it. And it's not ideal. That seems to be an ongoing issue with the new version of the figure as well. But the likeness to Rosario Dawson here is decent, okay, but it's certainly not as good as it could be. The new Rosario Dawson Ahsoka from the Ahsoka TV series is a vast improvement. I do think the outfit's even cooler than this original Mando version as well. But again, it's Ahsoka. It's a popular character. They're going to make multiple versions, but the possibility for QC issues, you have a likeness that isn't as great. The outfit is very well done. The new version is just a little bit more improved. I think that's why this figure doesn't quite hold up in today's market, which is why collectors, no one talks about it. No one seems to really want it. You can see Justin's collection again comparing the two figures. And to me, the detail on the left version with the new Ahsoka the White is better. I think everything in regards to the likeness is improved, and the tailoring and the overall height is more accurate as well to Rosario Dawson. I think it's just an overall better figure. The one on the right is still solid. It's a good figure, but it just doesn't stack up to the second version from Ahsoka. The Ahsoka the White is a lot more presence, and I think it's more accurate. It's better paint applications. Yeah. So collectors who have been in the game for a little while are going to be familiar with this situation. This is the Hot Toys Beskar Mando. Now, this was a figure that was very popular after it was released, but its reign was very short-lived. This was a figure that was announced, and then not long after that, Hot Toys announced a chrome version that said, okay, this is all the improvements that you've wanted. It's more accurate, it's more lifelike, it's shinier, and better in every way. And that's pretty much what they did with that release there. And what happened was the Beskar Mando, the original version, had just started shipping to the United States. It had been out maybe in Hong Kong for a couple months, and they announced a improved, better chrome version that really left a sour taste in a lot of collectors' mouths. And while it did have a couple little changes here and there to outfit accessories, stuff like that, it's just essentially a very similar figure that was vastly improved upon the original. And you can see here, it has a more dull look, which some collectors actually prefer over the more chrome, shinier look. But I want to showcase a comparison here again from Justin's review video, showcasing the comparison of the original version on the right and then the chrome version on the left. Much shinier, much improved. The proportions, the flight suit is obviously a little bit of a different color, but you also have a shinier figure that I think is going to pop a lot more on the shelf. If you're looking for a best Armando these days, it is certainly the chrome version. Some collectors weren't exactly thrilled with the amount of weathering on the new chrome version, but I love it. I think it looks great, and it truly pains me to do this because people who have followed the channel for a while now know how big of a Pennywise fan I am, for the Bill Skarsgård iteration at least. And this is the Hot Toys Pennywise, which at the time I was incredibly excited for. This was my most anticipated figure because of how exciting it was to have a Pennywise made by Hot Toys, which I never thought would happen in a million years. And in its own right, this is a good figure. Let me be clear here. This is a good figure with a great diorama base. And I do think for a lot of collectors who are just looking for a Pennywise in their collection, this one certainly fits the mold. This is a very, very well done figure. Problem is, InArt announced one and produced one that was way better. I've had both of them. I've owned multiple versions of both of them, and I can tell you for a virtual certainty that the InArt version is superior. The collar on this one is not quite as good as the InArt version. There's a little bit more neck showing than the InArt version. The tailoring is better on the InArt version, and of course, first and foremost, the head sculpt is more lifelike on the InArt version. That said, this one is still a good figure that you can get at a reasonable price these days, but it just again pales in comparison to the best version I think that's out there, which again is that InArt version. So this one aged very poorly for that reason. When it first started out, everyone was like, wow, this thing could end up being like a massive grail for collectors, right? But when you compare it to the InArt version on the left, the InArt version is just more lifelike, better tailoring, more weathering on the actual costume, and just a better figure overall. You get two head sculpts with both versions if you got the deluxe version with InArt, and the teeth version is pretty exceptional. So guys, I gotta say, all in all, InArt won this round. Hot Toys released theirs a little bit before InArt, maybe a couple years before, so it wasn't exactly a fair fight, but still, it's a vastly superior figure, so much more detail, and just a better overall design. So the Hot Toys version, no one seems to care about. Everyone's all about that InArt Pennywise these days. At number 3, we have the Hot Toys Joker from The Dark Knight. Now, Heath Ledger's performance as the Joker is extremely iconic. That's evident in pretty much every merchandising company ever making Joker stuff with Heath Ledger because it's just something that sells. This Hot Toys figure has been made in 1/6 scale, 1/4 scale. You got other companies making it at different scales as well. InArt made one, a 2-pack. This is just a extremely iconic character. Now we have an artisan version in 1/6 scale, and I own this 1/4 scale Joker, and for a little while I was fairly content with it. Over time though, I started to realize the head sculpt and the likeness just wasn't there. They did include for the special edition a head sculpt that was, I guess, half makeup, half not, which was never actually seen in the film. But again, you have a somewhat dead-eye Joker here. And of course, this figure is big. It's 1/4 scale, which is not going to be every collector's cup of tea. And you can see half of the Heath Ledger likeness there in the portrait with the head sculpt that has half makeup, half not. But again, this figure really just faded into obscurity very quickly. Again, 1/4 scale is not everyone's cup of tea. And also, there are vastly superior offerings out there in terms of the likeness to this iconic portrayal and character. And this version just didn't quite do it for a lot of collectors. The base also was pretty sus. It didn't really hold the weight of the figure very effectively. And again, it all comes down to the likeness. When you look at this, I don't quite see Heath Ledger in this likeness here. And that's problematic when you're paying close to $600 for this figure out the door. You could probably get it much cheaper these days, but I just think there's a lot better offerings out there for Heath Ledger. And 1/4 scale, I mean, I guess, yeah, this is probably the best one still out there, but maybe Hot Toys will decide to tackle it again at some point. But still, the artisan version of Heath Ledger is a way better figure than this. Again, not exactly a fair fight considering it's new compared to the old one, but this one just was never, even at the time, it was a controversial head sculpt. It's not quite there. And at number 2, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Thanos. I know I've mentioned this one in other videos as well, but I just think when you have this iconic of a character, which the goated version is Infinity War. I'm going to go out on a limb and say that. I know people love their battle damage version from Endgame or their standard version from Endgame, but for me, the Infinity War one has a better likeness, better paint applications, and a more iconic look because that's the Thanos who won. Still, we have the Guardians of the Galaxy Thanos that comes with a pretty cool throne. This is how Thanos looked in the film, but the paint application articulations are very flat for this figure. You have I guess a somewhat visible joint there on each side. The likeness is pretty close to how he looked actually in Guardians of the Galaxy, but his overall size is much smaller than Thanos actually turned out to be. Again, accurate to the film, but at the same time, this is before Marvel really had figured out what this character was going to look like and what his actual scaling was going to be compared to other Marvel heroes and villains and so forth. And again, while this figure certainly had its place in people's collections for the time, it's not the Thanos that you would truly want in your collection if you were to pick a definitive iconic version. You could go with Endgame, Battle Damage is cool too, and of course you have the regular version as well, but Infinity War to me is just such a cool look. I love that head sculpt, I love that overall figure, and you have an arm that is already in the gauntlet flexing pose, which is pretty badass. Again, I think this figure it looks old, it looks dated, right? And that's, again, why it's not aged well. And at number 1, we have the Hot Toys The Force Awakens Chewbacca. Guys, this one I've harped on for a little bit too. This is the worst Chewbacca figure that's ever been made, bar none. The new one looks like it's actually going to be pretty good. Fingers crossed the final product comes out as good as the prototype looks, because that one looks incredible. Force Awakens Chewbacca has become a laughingstock at this point. You have the A New Hope Chewbacca, which was actually a very good figure. That was the Chewie that everyone wanted. And then you compare it to this Force Awakens version, which had a multitude of problems. For one, the fur just didn't really feel high quality, and the styling of the fur was very problematic. He looks more like a dog than he does Chewbacca, which again is a huge problem. We talk about likeness and the overall importance that does to a high quality, high-end figure such as the Hot Toys figure, and it doesn't look like Chewie. It doesn't look like Chewie. It looks like a dog. The hair quality is poor. The styling is poor. You have to really put a lot of work in to make this guy even look half decent. And again, you have the New Hope version, which is better. And of course, now you have a Empire version, which is way cooler. That thing is a grail. I cannot wait to get that thing in hand. So yeah, this guy just, he faded into obscurity very quickly because this was a very controversial release even for the time. But now when you factor in newer and improved versions, this one just looks really bad, which is kind of what it always was. And that's that, guys. Thank you so much for joining me for this video again. Hopefully you found some entertainment or fun or maybe some helpful information in this video. And if you did, make sure to drop me a like down below, subscribe to the channel, and make sure you click the notification bell so that way you're notified when content goes live here. Make sure to drop some comments down below about some figures that you feel aged very poorly, maybe aged like milk, I guess you could say. And also whether you agree with my takes on these figures. Maybe you have some of these figures and you love them and you don't feel like they age poorly and they still look great in your collection. You can let me know in the comments below. Maybe there's some you agree with. Let me know that as well. And of course, just let me know how your collecting is going right now. Are you refining your collection, curating, or are you in the process of expanding? It's always an, I guess, ongoing, everlasting process. But guys, thank you so much for joining me. I will catch you in the next video. Peace out. See you later. Bye.